Welcome to the Wasting Time podcast. We are back again. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. I'm recording at home with my mic, so I apologise in advance for my co-hosts' audio quality.
You don't have to apologise for me and brag about the quality of your microphone.
Yeah, that was poor of me, really, wasn't it?
I'm somewhere kind of between Manchester and Leeds at the moment, so taking an opportunity. I mean, if it wasn't for the sound quality, it's like a perfect time to record a podcast, especially when I've got a young baby at home. Because, when I'm at home, it's like I'm torn between, I've got to spend time with the child and the wife. So actually, a 3-hour journey in the car is a perfect opportunity to record multiple podcasts. But I don't think it'll be very listenable.
Well, as we record it, your sound quality it's certainly passable. So hopefully, when I edit this, it'll be sounding okay. But you okay though, mate?
Yeah, good man. Yeah, just waiting for that next big booking, really, to get back on the old podcasts and letting you kind of do your own thing a little bit, which I hear has been going all right.
Yeah, so I've recorded a couple recently. Today's one, and then we'll put out one, I think probably early next week as well, just to kind of tide us over. And we're talking to a few people, some potential big bookings, which should be exciting. So hopefully we'll get you on most, if not all of those, but we'll just see as that kind of pans out. But I've been enjoying keeping this going, spoken to some interesting people. But it's cool. It's good to have you back on, even if it's if I can't see your face, it's good to hear your voice on your car journey.
Well, I know you're into voice notes. I could do you some voice notes if you like to hear my voice. From time to time, fill that void for you,
mate. I love a WhatsApp voice note. It's the way to go.
I've not really adopted the voice note. Lucy, my wife's a big voice note advocate. And,
is she?
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels weird. Maybe I just need to get some rhythm with it.
Yeah, well, it's good for two reasons. One being it's just much quicker to do if you've got more than one sentence to say, so it's quicker than typing it out. And secondly, the tone of the message you can convey much easier. Sometimes when you're typing something and it might be a bit delicate, it's difficult to get the tone right. Send a voice note, and then is there not a benefit in the sense that you maybe just want to say a few things without having to get in a full-blown conversation and do the small talk and the pleasantries of a telephone conversation as well? You could say that. And the other downside is when you receive them, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, I've got to find somewhere to listen to this now. I can't just read it, Yeah.
But what's been happening kind of music-wise? I was hoping that I would be able to come catch up with you and tell you about a really brilliant great grade 2 gig I went to on Sunday, but I hadn't been very well and just didn't make it. That's sorry to say that Jack and is it Jacob, the drummer?
That's right.
Yeah, apologies to those guys. I was really looking forward to going along. There's a little small independent brand new venue in Newcastle as well that were big on the local beers and craft beers and stuff. So it was going to be cool. Yeah, it was shaping up to be a really good night where I didn't have to drink Carlsberg, from the Academy or the O2 Hall or whatever. But you caught them. Did you catch them at Banquet?
I did, yeah. They did a show for Banquet. It was the album launch show on the day that the album came out. So it was just after we spoke to Sid that I went along. Yeah, it was a brilliant night. Went with my friends Matt and Sophie and Charlie. Shout out to those three. Everyone thought they were brilliant. It was really nice to see the boys. I didn't get to speak to them as much as I would like, but it was kind of it felt a bit like for them, when it's like a big birthday party or your wedding and everyone wants to talk to you. So, I caught up with them a little bit, but I didn't bother them too much. But yeah, they were amazing. And I just think they're going to keep going on to bigger and better things. I'm hoping to catch their Rancid show. Yeah, and they're off to the States before that, I think. So
hopefully they'll roll back through Newcastle in the next couple of years. They seem to be relentless, and I suppose because they're a really young band that have got successful quite quickly. they've got the energy to just do like relentless tours, haven't they?
Absolutely.
So hopefully, it won't be long before they do another UK show, UK tour.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll definitely.
It would be a miss to do those Rancid shows to potentially, expose themselves to potentially some new audiences that not to follow up with some of their own shows again.
Exactly. And speaking of bands we know, Love Breakers are playing a lot of shows with our pals in Elvana, which is cool. They're going to Germany with them now, which is exciting.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. How many dates are they doing in Germany?
Just the 3. So it's like a long weekend. So it's going to be Hanover, Berlin, Hamburg. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
And you've been listening to on your radar? I did listen to the new 100 Reasons record, which came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It's classic. I thought it was like classic 100 Reasons, like that. Clearly, just it was like they just picked up where they left off. Really, it was.
Yeah.
I think it was just the same sound as before. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Some good tracks on there. I think like I forgot what was their first. What was that big record they had called? It kind of went up and down in waves. They had some kind of slower songs, and some real kind of punky, kind of grungy songs. And, I would say it was kind of pretty much classic 100 Reasons.
Ideas Above Our Station was the record you were talking about.
Yeah.
The new one, Glorious Sunset. It's cool. I think the best song is the opening song, the single, which they opened with, because I did go and see them at their Hammersmith Apollo show a couple of weeks ago, which was fun.
Yeah, I mean that's a decent sized venue, right? Like, do you know if they sold it out?
No, I don't think. No, they didn't, because there were still tickets available for the upper circles. But it was they came pretty close, I think, because it was originally at Brixton and they moved it over to Hammersmith Apollo. But yeah, it was busy.
Pretty good for like a band like that who were like decent, a decent following, but not a massive following back in the day.
Yeah.
To go straight in at like some big venues like that.
Exactly. So I think that tour was a success for them.
I suppose, I mean, you look at the whole resurgence now of like, comeback bands, there's like the When We Were Young thing, and like there's this whole like movement at the moment, isn't there, of like comebacks, like from the millennial kind of, like from that kind of 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago era.
Do you know who I'm really happy to see making music again, even though it's a covers EP? But it's good to have Midtown back.
Yeah. No, it was great. What was the single that just brought
out? It's a cover of Lagwagon's Know It All.
Yeah.
They've just slowed it down, but it works really well. It's cool.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really good. And have they got other stuff out already, or is it on the way?
On the way. They've got a covers EP out. I think it's sometime in March, so it can't be far off.
Let's have to see if Rob can hook us up with Gabe.
Yeah, well, I was thinking if possible, maybe we could get all of them on, which would be fun. We'll have to see what their availability is like.
I don't think we've ever done any more than four total.
It would be a challenge, but I mean, we'll see. I can't imagine all 4 of them being available for it anyway.
Anything else on your radar?
Yeah, a couple of things. Dave Hause has a new record coming out. I'm actually going to see him at Banquet Records next week, and I really like his.
I heard the new single. Yeah, I really like
it. Which one are you talking about? Is it Hazard Lights or Damn Personal? There's 2.
The first one. What did you say? Damn Personal.
So there's Damn Personal and there's Hazard Lights.
One that came out first.
Yeah, Hazard Lights was January. When was Damn Personal? Yeah, it's Hazard Lights. Yeah, that's the one I like too. It's a nice, it's really sort of upbeat poppy song as well. I really like it.
Nice. Where are you seeing him then? Just in London?
In Kingston. He's doing an in-store performance at Banquet Records next weekend. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
nice. I suppose that's just up the road for you now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty local. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a few other things, but I feel like we've talked enough now, and I've got quite a lot. So my interview today was quite a long one, so maybe we just jump into
heard enough of my voice to tie you over for another couple of weeks. Is that what it is?
Well, for the listeners' benefit, I talked to Nick for a bit before we started recording, so it's not just these 5 minutes I'm bored of him. And I'm gonna, I'll keep talking to him for a little bit after this as well. But in the interest of the intro,
and I'll work on my voice notes.
Yeah, you do that, my friend. Anyway, let me real quick introduce today's guest. So I spoke to Tyson from the band Crooked Teeth, who have a new album coming out this year. They've had a couple of singles recently. Check out the song Loser that came out recently. And then I think they've got another one later this month. Tyson was kind enough to send me the record and in advance of the record, and it's a really cool, interesting sound. And I loved this chat with Tyson. The guy knows his music. So without further ado, here it is. How's it going, Tyson?
It's pretty good. It's I just got to LA last night, and it's really beautiful here, contrary to like how it's been the past almost whole month. It's been so stormy all the time. So it's like not a cloud in the sky today. It's really pretty. It's a good starter.
I appreciate you joining me at, I guess, must be just after 9 a.m. your time. So appreciate the early start.
Yeah, I was up at 8, so I'm an early bird. So you're all good to go. No worries. What time is it there? Like 6, 7?
No, it's just 10:05 p.m. So we're like 8 hours ahead.
Gotcha.
So where are you normally based?
I live in San Francisco.
Okay.
So I'm just right up the coast. Emma, our guitarist and the other singer in the band, she lives here in LA. I used to live in LA, and Jason's in DC, so we're kind of stretched.
Okay.
Across the country, but we're all convening in LA this week because we have a show on Saturday, and we have 2 songs left to finish on our record. So
got you.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I see you playing with Spill Canvas on Saturday, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how is that in terms of being so spread out? In terms of practice, like how do you work that? Because some bands will practice once or twice a week. I guess that's a struggle for you guys to do in person.
Well, last year, because we're just we released 1 single so far this year from the record, and another one's going to come out in about 3 weeks. And this is the only show that we have announced right now. We kind of just actually, it's pretty wild. This Saturday, Jason gets in, I think our load in at the venue is 5:30 or 6 p.m. Jason gets in, lands at 12:35 p.m. on Saturday, and we go straight to rehearsals for 4 hours. So it's not always like that, but this time it is, because last year we played so many shows, and we played the same you play the same set list, or the same variation of it over and over, to where it's pretty much in muscle memory.
Got you.
And really rehearsals for us are, if we're not on something like this, is really just to learn the new songs and for the live setting.
Yeah.
But it is something, it's not something we struggle with or we're upset about. We totally understand. Jason, he has a 1.5-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So that's kind of or else I think he'd probably be in California. He comes out about once a month anyways. So we always just try to we were supposed to have 2 shows. We were supposed to open for Escape the Fate on Tuesday in San Francisco.
Yeah,
so it was they canceled because they're on tour with Papa Roach, and Papa Roach had to cancel a show due to weather, and then their makeup show for that was on the same day as San Francisco. So they had, it's just a situation like that where obviously out of our control, but that would have been cool because we would have like had, you know, 2 shows back to back to where like, you know, if something wasn't, you know, if we wanted to change something after the first show, we had the second show to be like, okay, we'll do this here. But we don't really have that luxury this time, which is fine. But overall, man, like we're in contact with each other every single day. You know, the way we've been doing this record, which is really the important thing, is like Jason's got an awesome studio he goes to in DC. My really good friend who was the first person to ever record any music I ever did it when I was like 14 years old. He lives in the East Bay, you know, San Francisco. So he's just a train ride for me, and he's been mixing most of our record. And then the producer who we've done 8 songs on the record with lives 10 minutes away from where I'm at right now. So we've just been like, you know, we've just been making it work. Like I think we're pretty flabbergasted in ourselves. Like, how the fuck have we been doing that? You know, like how have we been just like knocking this out with seemingly with ease? You know, so we're getting mixes in like every couple days, and I think really the key to it is like we love being in this band. Like, and I'll say as the person who started it, like by myself, and you know, this is a COVID inception of the band. It is the strongest. It is the most like fluid relationship I've ever been in with other musicians. We definitely have a bond that I am so grateful for and feel so blessed to like have in my life. And I think that's to be said for all 3 of us. And so I think the way we just make it work, the coping mechanism is really just gratefulness and excitedness to just like do it, you know? And so any roadblocks that come in between, we just find ways to get over them because it's worth it to us to, you know, to do it. So, yeah.
So you put out, it's just 1 song so far in 2023, Loser, right? And
Loser,
the video, which that looks like it was in San Francisco to me when I was looking at the video. So it looks like you filmed it locally for you. How's that been received so far?
Pretty good. I mean, it's definitely a different one for us. Like, I mean, a lot of the same elements of like what I think makes Crooked Teeth are present in that song. But when we went into the studio to write it, which was like in August of last year, we, you know, Cammie Patton, who we did the song with, her and I, like, she's not much of like a pop punk or like emo kid, but she is a nu metal and grunge kid. And I am too. I am too. And so is Emma. Like all 3, like we are not just limited to loving pop punk and emo. Like we love just rock music as a whole. And so when we approached that song, we were just like, we need something with like that has like the kind of emo, like, you know, Blink sensibility, but also has this like new metal kind of like Alice in Chains is not new metal, but like this kind of like Alice in Chains, like Limp Bizkit, kind of like a heavy kind of backbeat, you know? And so for us, like that song is really cool. And, you know, I can't wait to play it live for the first time on Saturday, but like, I think it's just a lot of people are like, whoa, like we're not expecting that. And, but I think like that's kind of the whole vibe of like what our record is going to be. Like it can go from a moment like that to, you know, on the single release before that, Promise, it's got like a straight up like youth crew kind of like rotting out or comeback kid, or like it's got this like breakdown, like 2-step part in it, part, like a breakdown. So like we can do that. And in the same song, it's got a chorus that is like, you know, a catchy Alkaline Trio song or something. So it's like, for us, like, I guess going to your original question, like, how has it been received? A lot of people have been, it's kind of like almost like a late bloomer. I think like once the music video came out, maybe the energy was portrayed a little more. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of like people just kind of like, you know, even a month after the song's been out, like finding it and being really stoked by it. And so, and I think that's like the thing about with Crooked Teeth is like, I was saying this to someone yesterday. I was showing them most of the record, and I was like, yeah, there's something for everyone on this. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, it don't matter if you're like a you know, diehard like Blink fan, or if you like, you know, if you're more privy to new metal or grunge, like, you're gonna find something on this record like that is going to like hit that sensory, you know, of your musical interest. And I think that's what's really special. And I think Loser being like the first single, it was kind of maybe a little audacious, because it was just like, okay, this is not just straightforward, like, this is not just like your standard mid-tempo beat, you know, like, how do I put it? It was just kind of a left field one for us to do first. And I think that's kind of like what I like, is when I love an artist and I'm shocked by what they do, right? I'm like, whoa, like, not doing anything that's so like grandeur, I mean, crazy, you know. Or,
I see what you're saying with that song, because it's, you know, like when there's artists before and they're kind of like almost blending pop punk and new metal, it always feels like it's still like it's either a new metal song or it's a pop punk song. Like, if it's a pop punk song, it's just
right,
it just like has some screaming or some heavy bits. But like, this is like a straight up mash of the two, because you kind of got like the major melody and in the bit of it that sounds like it's pop punk, but like you say, then it will go to another bit and it's like, wow, this is like out of a different song, you know. And it's a really interesting approach. So I the way you describe it is what comes across, definitely.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I think like a big for Jason and I specifically, we're huge Blink fans, and more specifically, we're huge fans of the Untitled record before they broke up the first time. And it seemed like, and a lot of fans at first, when that album came out, did not understand it, because they were just like, wait, this isn't Dumpweed, this isn't like First Date or The Rock Show, this is like dark, and this is like moody, and this is, you know, there's weird post-hardcore parts, you know, and stuff like that. And I think that's what makes art like beautiful, is when, again, when people step out of the comfort zone and they make something that they're just like, no, this is cool to me, and like, I want to hear this in a song. And, you know, I think it's okay to be selfish when it's your art and create something that stimulates you first and foremost, because when you're really stimulated by your own craft, people will also, like, the synergy that comes from that, like, people will also be excited. And I mean, that's what makes that Blink album my favorite Blink album, because it's such a culmination of like all three of them like pushing themselves. And I think that was kind of like in our conversations when we actually started writing the album, like, you know, we're big like mood board people, where we're like, well, let's create a mood board of like, you know, like, what are some albums, like, let's make a playlist of like, you know, songs that we love, that we would love to hear this kind of energy on our record. And Emma, she's a little younger than Jason and I, like, just by like enough of a gap to where like she didn't get hit by like Blink in the same way, you know, we did, like in the TRL sense and the MTV sense, you know, to where like, so we've been like, she was making fun of us in the band for the longest time, because she'd just be like, God, do you guys listen to, like, you guys talk about or listen to anything else? And when we were going to like make this record, I was like, Emma, both Jason and I were just like, dude, because we'd be referencing stuff in the studio, and she'd be like, and so was our producer. Honestly, so has Scott, our mixer. Like, we're all just obsessed with that era. And so she was like, fuck, I guess I have to do a history. You know, I guess I have to do some research. And like, now she's like, oh my God, like, I love Plus 44. Oh my God, this Boxcar Racer record is so sick. Like, you know, to where now it's like, when I listen to, you know, we have like 8 songs done, and I was driving down here. It's a pretty long drive. It's like 5.5 hours. And so I spent the bulk of it just like really listening to our songs intently. And I was like, and I just keep finding myself, and I think it's the same for all three of us. Like, I remember Emma was texting in the group chat, and she was like, dude, I can't listen to anything else right now. And I was like, literally same. Like, I've never done a piece of music, like, well, I've never done full length. But to be so stoked about like your own songs, I know this sounds really cocky, and I'm generally not this kind of person, but like I think we're all very proud and excited for what we've created organically and without anyone's like supervision, or without trying to like meet a TikTok trend or something like that. We're just like writing dope song. We're writing a record, you know, which seems kind of crazy in 2023 for like a new band or a new artist that's like traversing the seas of social media where everything is just a trend in the moment, you know. It was a little daunting at first, but now we're just really excited, and we're so stoked on this batch of songs and this record, and just feel really grateful to have the opportunity to do it.
Is it all new material, or did you take any of your previous singles or songs off the EPs and kind of reimagine them or re-record them or anything?
The only one that's going on it is our song Promise, which came out in October of last year. And, you know, even then we weren't going to put that song on it, but it just feels like it belongs with that. Like, I think that song was kind of like what opened the door to everything we're doing now, and how well that song was received. It was like, it would be sort of an injustice to not include that as a track on the record. And so we are like, you know, the beauty of like Spotify and distribution services is that like we can go back and basically do an updated version when the record is closer to coming out of that song. And as long as it meets the same time as the song, like we can just like swap them out on streaming. And so we do have plans to, you know, Emma doesn't sing on the original version of Promise, so we kind of like want to find ways to bring her into the song and have it be like a special thing when the record comes out. So that's the only one that's making it. Not that we don't think that the other ones are record worthy. It's just we honestly didn't even have the idea to just go full gung ho and make a record until probably like November.
Okay.
We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we literally, I mean, I think we just came to a point where we're like, dude, this is like what we're good at. Like, we love records, we love rock. Like, we just need to do this, and like, fuck it, you know, if we have to take a break from shows and touring and like that whole machine to make something like a piece of art that's really cool, then fuck it, let's just do it. And so the idea to do an actual full length didn't come until, I mean, we've talked about it, but like we didn't actually pull the trigger on doing it until like November, middle of November. So we started formally recording the bulk of the songs in January. I had gone to Nashville in early December and did 3 songs there. So those 3 songs are going to be on the record, but the rest of it was done in California. And I don't know. I'm stoked. It's all going to be new material. Everything, you know, I think we're planning to drop like 4 or 5 singles before the record comes out. So people are just going to every 6 to 8 weeks be getting a taste of what's going on the whole thing.
Cool. I mean, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about this new record, but before we get into that, can we just, is it cool if we just go through the band history like real quick, just kind of give our listeners an idea of like of exactly where you're coming from and stuff. So so what you mentioned that you kind of individually started the band. Are you are you from the Bay Area, or are you I am from Northern
California, so I'm just like adjacent to the Bay Area, about like 40 minutes outside of the Bay, in a little just cow shit town called Lodi, California. Famously, it was sung about in a Creedence Clearwater song. It's called "Stuck in Lodi." If it paints any picture.
A nice claim to fame.
It's fun. We have the original A&W there. Sons of Anarchy bases their show around our whole area. Pavement is from there. I don't know if you're familiar with Pavement, the indie rock band. But other than that, you know, it's kind of just like this weird suburban pocket in between Sacramento and a larger city, port city of Stockton. So it's just kind of like a quiet little place. And I started the band though when I actually moved to LA for the first time when I was in 2016. So it's 23 going on 24. Okay. And I still didn't start it in 2016. I just had an idea for some songs, and I had only been in one other band that I started when I was a freshman in high school. And you know, being born and raised where I was, like, it's not an art hub, right? It's not some like liberal hub. People think this about California all the time, that it's just this like big liberal, like, you know, think tank
it's
hub.
not all like that, right?
Of like, it's not all like that. I mean, you drive 30 minutes out of any major metropolis and you're
I've
in
experienced
the sticks.
it, man.
You're with the hillbillies.
Yeah.
You're with the rednecks and the hillbillies. And that's, you know, says a lot about our country right now, but and the discourse that exists. But like, I growing up did not really have a lot of access to going to like local there wasn't a huge local scene. I think like when I was in middle school going into high school, like screamo was really starting. So that band, A Skylit Drive, was from our hometown. Went to like high school and church with them, and then Dance Gavin Dance was kind of getting big at the time. Emma Rosa, like, so Sacramento had this whole like I don't even want to say hard. I don't even want to use hardcore but it was this whole like, you know, kind of heavier, progressive kind of music. And we, you know, growing up, we were just pop punk, like punk rock kids. We loved like the Casualties and Anti-Flag and Rancid and Green Day and, you know, Newfound Glory and Blink, obviously. Like, we were very into that, and there was probably only like 10 of us in our hometown that were into that kind of thing. So starting a band, it was like slim pickings, you know. It was like really hard. And then it's a town where it's like very, very based around like high school sports, like football and like getting a scholarship, and like that's your ticket out. And so music is never really seen as like a viable option to like have a career. So it was never really encouraged in school, and there was nothing really, you know, like a lot of places. And I think that's kind of what makes the whole story awesome, is just kind of like being existing in defiance of all that. But yeah, I had a band when I was in high school, and I just hung it up when I was like 22. I was like, okay, I'm finally done. I need to like start fresh. I'm an adult now. And I had a lot of like just contentious like relationships with friends who were in the band, my original band, because I've always just been really passionate. Like, I love music so much. I fucking love writing it. I love playing it. I love talking about it. I love even being involved in the more administrative things that exist behind the scenes. And so I think that my friends growing up that I was playing music with, that I, you know, had my whole life, like, they didn't really have that same, like, their focus wasn't in the same way. It was very like just hobby driven for them, which it was for me too. But like, I knew that I kind of had like those more like visions of grandeur and kind of big city dreams, if you will, to, you know, be cheeky. But like, it just with Crooked Teeth, I just wanted to create something that was authentic to me, that kind of like, even our first EP, if you go back to it, like, every single song sounds different. Like it's still, you know, it's still got the melody, like that melody and that kind of like charm of pop punk or emo, but like, there's influences from like Bad Religion, there's influences from Nirvana and Hole, and there's influences obviously from like Blink and Green Day. But like, I wanted to create something that couldn't really necessarily be pigeonholed in one subgenre or anything. Like, and that's still kind of my ethos with it today, as far as creatively. Like, we want to, you know, like on our current song, like on our record, like, we have the heaviest song we've ever written, and it's got like a slide steel guitar on it, like, you know, just like strutting like country influence over a borderline new metal song. So yeah, when I started the band back in 2017, it was just me. I had done that first EP, and then I kind of grew with a couple guys who, you know, I still love today. But again, like I was kind of really the driving creative force and songwriter behind that. And around the time COVID hit, the three of us just kind of parted. But I knew from day one that this is going to be my thing. Like, this is my.
Did you get a chance to do many shows?
I did,
Okay.
yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, we did a few a few tours in like 2018.
Okay.
You know, we played shows with like Belmont and Aaron Rust in the Roaring Twenties.
Okay, some big names.
And then we did and that was like really early on. I think we only had one EP out. We had just signed to Rude Records over there, I think a European-based label. We signed with them for a re-release of the EP. And then in 2019, we put out an EP in 2018 on Rude Records, which I admittedly was very detached from.
Okay.
I had we had signed a Rude, and so they, you know, obviously gave us a budget to do another EP on top of the one that they re-released, and we went with a producer, you know, and I try not to be salty on interviews, but like we went with this guy who I kind of like started the writing process originally for Crooked Teeth with, and so I think he felt like kind of a sense of like agency or ownership over the project, and so when we got signed, he felt it was very much his role to deliver and be kind of the sole steerer of the ship. So when we went in, I realized at that point I was like a songwriter, and this is probably like mid 2018, and so I brought these songs actually with Adam and Adam, the original members. We spent some time out at Adam's house, like writing like 5 or 6 songs for this EP. Really stoked on them. Went in to show this producer, and he was like, "This is dog shit."
Oh, wow,
basically.
okay.
He's like, yeah. It was like right off the bat. It was it was confrontational. Yeah. So we went in to do that in Portland, Oregon, and we were there for like a week and a half. And the thing is like, Adam, our drummer at the time, incredible drummer, like so good. One of my favorite drummers to watch play outside of our current drummer, Jason. And, you know, and the other guitarist, like, he wasn't really a songwriter. Like, I was clearly the songwriter of the bunch, you know? Like, I'm not even just saying that to, like, be flashy. Like, that's just the fact. And we went in there, and I think because they weren't songwriters, they really were like, hey, as a unit, we just need to give Matt the kind of like let him take the wheel on the songs. And I was like, what the fuck? Okay, that's kind of like, so we're just relinquishing creative control basically to this guy. And so we did this EP with him where like a lot of quite a few of the ideas I had for songs like Beg and You and Me Forever that came out in 2019 that are some of our highest streamed songs, he rejected them. He was just like, nah, this is trash.
Shit,
like he would literally just be like, nah, this isn't good. And so we put out that EP, and immediately, like, when you aren't attached to a piece of art, like, and I'm sure every artist will say this, like, it's really hard to just go out there and play the songs and like be excited about it and feel love for it. So that was released in like late 2018.
I'm just looking at the particular producer's credits as you're telling this story, which is quite interesting, but sorry.
Yeah. Basically, like, I just immediately was attached to that record. We went on tour with this Wildlife on our first like full US, like kind of bigger tour. Yeah, it was great. But we were playing those songs every night, and we came home from that, and we still didn't have like a booking agent or anything. And
how did you find yourself on the tour like that without a booking agent?
Well, so the guitarist at the time, admittedly, the guitarist was working for this Wildlife, and you know, gotta give props to them. I mean, they were just basically like, we'll take you guys could be the opening band on the tour, like for sure. And so they gave us that opportunity, which was very kind and gratuitous. And again, it was kind of marred and overshadowed, at least for me, in the fact that we were going out there and playing songs that, like, you know, 5 out of 7 of them, I was just like, I don't fucking care about this, you know, like I felt like I had no agency in the actual thing that I started. And so we kind of split like right at the fall of 2019. I was like, I'm going to keep going. I love this. I started this. This is my thing. Like, yeah, this sucks to kind of have this split, but I'm gonna figure it out. I know there's a plan. And went on tour in 2000, like late 2019, with the band called the Home Team. Who
Yeah, I
are
know them.
kind of like really popping off now. They're fucking huge now. And they're so well deserved. But we had known them for a while. Like, they were just our buds. And when we talked about doing a tour, the other dudes were in the band, but when we actually went to do the tour, you know, the kind of fallout had already happened. So 3 of the members in the Home Team were like, dude, we'll just be the backing band for your songs, basically. And we'll go on tour and we'll share a van. And it was such a great experience. I mean, like, I still have so much love for that band today because they just didn't give a fuck. They have no ego. They were just like, dude, we're going to go out there and we're just going to jam. We're going to hang out. We're going to play 6 shows. And those shows were probably like the highest attended was maybe like 200 or 300 people close to their hometown. And the lowest attended one was maybe like 20 people. But like, that was kind of that point where for both of us, like, we were starting to see that we did have fans that were coming out. And then early 2020, I played like 3 shows with Grayscale and Hot Mulligan on their tour, like the California dates. And then COVID happened. It was almost like, you know, I hate to say that anything to come out of COVID and that whole situation was a blessing. You know, I want to be careful how I use that word in that context, but like, it really allowed me, and I'm sure a lot of other musicians who were just used to that wheel always turning and always feeling like this pressure to just constantly be self-involved and constantly putting stuff out and constantly having to plan things 6 months out, for some bands longer, to finally like have this moment of uncertainty where literally no one, not even the gatekeepers, no one in the fucking industry knew what the fuck was going to happen. I think for someone like me, like it was like this moment to just take a really deep breath and just figure things out and not feel a crazy amount of pressure. So I had released a couple songs in 2020, and then I wrote this song called Light Me Up with Alan from 4 Years Strong. At the end of 2020.
He's been on the show before.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's a great songwriter, and he's just a really sweet guy. But we wrote that song and asked my friend Celeste, she has a project called Talker, to collaborate. We put that out in March of 2021. And from there, everything kind of just started to snowball. Like, I met Jason and Emma. Well, Jason and I discovered Emma like in the summer of 2021. She was just covering a Crooked Teeth song on Instagram, and I think she tagged the page, and I was like, this girl fucking shreds. What the hell? And then she was like, hey, I'm actually going to be playing for this artist. I'm going to be out in LA. Like, come out to the show. Like, let's hang out. And then we played our first show together. And Jason, I had actually met when we did that tour with This Wildlife. I had met his friends and his bandmates in another band in DC. We were for some reason, they like let us come crash at their house in between our Philly and Baltimore show, I think, or Philly and Boston, whatever. It doesn't matter. But they let us come crash, and we stayed in touch. And I think when those friends saw that the band had kind of like disbanded in the form it was, when they met us, they were like, hey, if you need a drummer, like, we know this guy, like, he's equally as obsessed with Blink-182 and Travis Barker as you are. You guys are the same age. Like, I think he would really compliment like what you're doing. And I was like, oh, that's, you know, so sweet of you to say that. And Jason and I kind of flirted on the internet for a year, and then I was like, hey, I think shows are going to start coming back. I want you to play drums, because I had been watching his videos, and I was like, this guy fucking, there's something special about him. And so we played our first show together, I think in September or October of 2021, played to like, 60 people in Fresno, California. And I remember driving home. We were driving back to LA from that show, and I remember just being like, "Listen, guys, like if this isn't your thing, like I totally get it. I know that I don't know what your expectations are, but like I know things are really small and still developing, and I just don't want you to feel any pressure to be here. You know, if it's going to be too much work or if it's not bringing excitement." And unanimously, they were just like, "No, like." We're fucking here for this, you know. And our next show, we played in front of like 2,000 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was just crazy. And then from there, it just was like, just snowballed into, you know, last year, we were just really fortunate to have some opportunities that bands that are unsigned and don't have an agent or a manager don't typically get. So yeah, like and I think that's what really led us to decide to just make a record and like really come together as a unit. Because I mean, you spend that amount of time with people who were strangers before, and you spend time driving around the country in a minivan playing festivals and sometimes playing basements and sometimes, you know, like just doing these crazy things with people that you didn't know a year before. And if it clicks and you develop a healthy bond, like it only feels right to just lean into it more. And so we just got to know each other really well last year through like tried and true touring, and you know, and now making a record. Like now there's 2 songwriters in Crooked Teeth, and not only that, I mean, Jason is like, I almost would consider him equally a songwriter, because what he brings to the table, like the drums on this album, like they're everything that I would want to hear when I was like 14 or 15, listening to a band and being like, yo, what the fuck? Like, this is so sick. Like, that's how I feel. That's how I feel about this record. And I think that it really takes something special between, you know, the creators to achieve something like that. So I'm just like, very grateful for the journey. You know, the journey's been long, and there's some scars in there, but for the most part, like where we are now, it's just like this kind of beautiful butterfly that came out of a, you know, deranged cocoon. So, yeah, and I'm really stoked and just grateful to be in a band with Jason and Emma and get to make a whole fucking album.
You mentioned that, so there's potentially going to be like 4 or 5 singles before the album's out. In terms of the album coming out, have you had any like interest from potential labels to put it out, or are you going to put it out yourselves? Do you know where you're at in that stage yet?
Every day, like I would say every week, this conversation changes, because there has been like new, you know, variables entering the situation, new people entering the conversation. So in a roundabout way, well, just short answer, we are going to put it out ourselves. We've already built our own rollout. Long answer is that it will probably be, you know, unless we enjoy this process of self-releasing so much that we decide never to sign to a label, like, then I guess that'll be that. But I foresee the next album coming out with somebody, just given the conversations that we've been having. And honestly, like the songs, and I know if it sounds maybe a little too prolific to be saying, but like the songs are, again, like I really believe that there's something timeless and cool about them, and I think other people are starting to hear that. We've you know, there's been people that we've wanted to share the record with, right? Like there's certain labels that we want, like there's really only one that I can think of where I'm like, okay, we need to hold out for that label. So we have really kind of not even spent time sharing these songs with like smaller labels, like no disrespect, but like there's really only probably like three labels that were like, okay, that's who, like, if we're gonna pull the trigger on signing to somebody, we need to work really hard by ourselves to get to the point where that party approaches us and it's going to be something that's going to be favorable. I really am interested in anything under the Atlantic umbrella, anything that Johnny Minardi is a part of. So
to be involved with a guy like that, that would be.
Yeah, I mean, and that's someone who I've looked up to. I mean,
Me too,
he's our scene. He's the alternative scenes, and I hope this gets back to him. I want him to hear this. And maybe I could just shoot him an email and tell him. But he's our generation's like this alternative, like coming out late '90s into the 2000s. Like he is our scene and our generation's Jimmy Iovine. Like he is someone who is an innovator. He's a well-accomplished tastemaker. Like he's someone who I would trust. If I was in high school with him at the same time, and that kid was like listening to something on his Walkman and was like, "Yo, you need to hear this," I'd be like, "Yes, I do." So I think that in full disclosure, like that's really the main team that I am interested in working with, and I think that's across the board. I mean, we're huge collective Paramore fans. I mean, I was in the Fall Out Boy fan club. I know Travis has his own label, DTA, through it. Elektra Records has been putting out bands like Dinosaur Pileup and White Reaper and the band Camino. And it's like, and then I'm just like Fueled by Ramen in itself. It's just like such a cool institution. I think they're what those other labels that I don't need to mention would probably prefer to be like. And I think that's a well-oiled machine, and I think that they've done a really great job. So that in a roundabout way, we would rather just hold out and do things ourselves and grow to the point of working with someone like that. So that's kind of what's in our brains.
You know what I should do? I should when I mentioned at the top of this interview that we just throw out a couple of clips for Instagram. I should do that one and tag Johnny Minardi in it.
Yeah. I want him to. I mean, I think he should. I think he knows how I feel by now. I mean, he's kind of somebody who, like, every time we get a new batch of songs, I'm like, should I send it to, like, he's someone I really revere as having just great taste in music. And he's actually, it's crazy. Johnny Minardi first connected with me, I think when I was like 16 or 17 really? With my first band. At the time, I think Johnny was at, I think it was before he went back to Equal Vision. And he could probably tell this better, and I don't even know if he'd remember this, but he reached out to me to write with Casey Bates, who did, I'm trying to think of the Pierce the Veil record he did, or records. But he was up in the Northwest. Casey Bates also went on to do that Portugal the Man record that blew up, that had that huge single, was Feel It Still. And he just did like the last MXPX record, which is really cool. But yeah,
favorite band.
I did. I have an MXPX tattoo.
Dude, I have two.
Yeah, so he reached out to me. He reached out to me when I was a teenager, and I was like, who is this guy? This guy seems important. And ever since then, yeah, I kind of just kept him updated. And I view conversations like this as manifestation, and I think that something will click there. And I think it's something that's able to be willed into existence without forcefully doing it. I think it's just going to come by constantly writing better and better songs and growing as a band. And so I don't want to put any pressure on that conversation that could exist. But I will say that's the dream. That's the dream situation for sure. So I would rather just hold out and not really, I don't really have time to, like, I don't know. I think I would rather hold out and not really go with the store brand versions of that. I would rather just go for the main thing.
Have you done Mike Herrera's podcast?
I did with that old band, actually.
Oh, okay.
It was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool, man. I honestly love Mike Herrera. He's one of my favorite people I've ever, they say not to meet your heroes, but like one of my favorite experiences I've ever had. I mean, MXPX, it's actually crazy. Mike Herrera is an incredible person, an incredible songwriter as well. I mean, MXPX is a timeless punk rock band. Like they deserve any appreciation that they get. And they're another one of those bands where I actually rarely hear people like talk shit. I think they hold a special place in a lot of people's lives, and probably people with similar backgrounds to mine. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people I meet that are like, oh yeah, I was raised in the, in youth group, but like that band was one that stuck with me forever. And it's because they're like incredible songwriters. And I think there's a lot of artists from that scene that when I met with Mike Herrera, I'll tell you, I think on the trip up to Bremerton to meet with him, I was listening to Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo. And it starts very similarly. Like the record has similar energy to Green Day's Insomniac. And I remember asking him when I got there, I was like, did you guys, like, was there a crossover here? Like, were you guys influenced by Green Day too? And he's like, dude, Green Day was the band where in like, I think it was like 91 or 92. He's like, they played in Bremerton and at like a youth center, and we all went. And that was the moment, like, we wanted to start MXPX. Like, that was the moment when we were like, dude, like, this band can do it, and they're like our age, like we can do it. And I remember him telling me that, and it was just so insane to think about, like, and it's crazy. Actually, one time, like, I hung out with Mark Hoppus, like, and he said the same exact thing. He was like, dude, we just wanted to be like Green Day. He was like, we just, we obviously loved the Descendants and stuff, but like we saw Green Day doing that, and we knew they motivated a lot of, late teens going into their 20s to like start bands and tour and like take it seriously. So it's crazy. I had this like interaction. It's crazy how I discovered MXPX through Green Day, but then had this interaction with Mike Herrera where things came full circle, and it was like, yeah, actually that's why we want it, So I don't know. I'm perplexed by that kind of vesicular.
Yeah. How come you were hanging out with Mark Hoppus?
It was because I have a friend. My friend John is like, he met Blink when they got back together the first time, when they did Neighborhoods, like when they did the comeback reunion tour. And I think he was like the first kind of like real press conference they did after they announced their reunion on whether it was like the Grammys or VMAs, whatever it was, in 2009. When they went to do the tour, he did a kind of this like whole forum. He was a developer at Google. He was a part of, I think, the launch of like Google Plus, Google Hang. Blink is his favorite band, and he basically became like Mark's go-to tech guy. So John and I met at a Paramore show and instantly clicked. And throughout all that time, he's like, yeah, man, if Blink ever gets, if they ever tour again, or whenever they tour again, because we didn't find out Tom was leaving the band and that it was going to be replaced with Matt Skiba. But when that happened, basically Mark invited John out to Vegas for the first like 2 shows. And I met Mark through John. And yeah, I mean, I wish I could say we're like friends, because I think we would be friends if we, maybe met in a different context or through creating music, which I'm sure will happen eventually. But yeah, that was the context. And yeah, another person who I think is a wonderful human. Absolutely. And writes great songs.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, Tyson, I don't want to keep too much of your time, because I think we've been going nearly an hour here. So what I might do, I've got like a few kind of like blanket questions to kind of fire at you, that we kind of, the kind of things that we end every podcast with. So yeah, maybe we could dive into a couple of those and then wrap this up, if that's cool with you.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's funny, man. Like, because I feel like you listen to a lot of the same music as me and stuff. So like, I'm not going to go too blanket. So I just want to know things like, just basically, so what are you listening to right now? Like what bands and artists should I know about that I might not know about? Like, who's impressed you recently? Like modern stuff.
Ooh, White Reaper. I love this band called White Reaper.
I noticed you mentioned them before, and the singer in the band I manage has turned me onto them a while ago. Yeah, they had a new record quite recently.
Yeah, they just put it out like last month, and I just think I've said this to a few people. You know, it sounds so corny when I say this weird like music journalist stuff, but I'm like, they're literally like, if I was writing a Rolling Stone article about them, I'd be like, this band is like the past, present, and future of rock and roll. Like, they have found a way to tap in on every single genre. Like, I hear Thin Lizzy, I hear the Cars, I hear Ramones, I hear the Queers, I hear Green Day, I hear Rush, I hear AC/DC, I hear like so many moments in that band where I'm like, dude, these guys just like get rock music. And I think that they're writing these songs that are reminiscent of timeless songs, and then they're creating, you know, through that they're creating timeless songs themselves, which is kind of similar to like, I don't want to say, you know, we don't necessarily sound the same, but that's how we view writing music too. It's like we're always trying to pay homage to like what came before and what made us want to do it, and I think White Reaper has done that in such a perfect and raw way. Even just the mix of their record, it just sounds timeless. That band, as a band, we've really grown to like, you know, Emma and I specifically really like country music. And so there's this artist who's pushing a lot of boundaries here in America called Hardy. And he's basically like, he's everything I would have wanted Kid Rock to be. Like, he's basically
how do you spell it? Sorry?
Hardy.
Okay, got you. Yeah.
Love Hardy. I think that like he's just writing some really, really fucking cool songs. He brings just really cool energy. He's I mean, you know, you could go on his Instagram. There's pictures of him just like rocking an Every Time I Die shirt. You know, like he's like he's an incredible songwriter. His record is fucking awesome. Like, to be able, and I just love anyone who pushes genre barriers too. Like, that's not, you know, that in a traditional sense, like, I'm sure that, you know, artists are rolling over in their graves at someone like Hardy, or, you know, dare I say, like Machine Gun Kelly, where it's like, oh my God, why are they doing this and this? Like, leave it alone. But like, I really love when people push that envelope, the genre envelope, and Hardy is someone that I'm really excited to watch like become massive, and not just in country and not just in rock, but just like across the board as a sonic artist. So I would say those two right now are two that I really enjoy. I'm trying to think of like what's another band that I've been jamming a lot. There's an emo band. I'll just call it emo band straight up, like that's been kind of doing some bigger like tours here. Like they're called Super American.
I know. I'm familiar with them. Like, I haven't listened to them for ages, but I remember they had that first EP with that. I forget what the song was called, but it had a really catchy kind of lead song on it.
And they put out the song like in the middle of the pandemic or right before it, called "How Big Is Your Brain," which was really cool.
And didn't they do that collaboration song during Black Lives Matter as well? I forget.
With Young Culture
in the Streets.
Yeah. I think that they're really cool. I mean, and they're also a band like.
Agreed.
They're always rocking like fucking Atticus, and like, you know, they're like wearing all these brands where I'm like, okay, dude, like I see what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, those are three artists right now where I'm like always listening to and think that they're doing something cool that's like I don't know, it's like really nostalgic but also like moving things forward. So those are three that I would say right off the bat. Yeah.
Here's something I like to put guests on the spot with. So I'm going to pick 4 previous guests we've had on this show, and you have to lose the music of one of them. So you only get to keep 3 out of the 4 of them.
Okay.
So I don't know. So I'm going to get, who should I throw at you? Okay. So I'm going to throw MXPX, Newfound Glory, Sum 41, and who should I do as the fourth one? Midtown. If you had to lose the music of one of those artists, who would get the chop?
Oh, the whole catalog?
Yeah.
I lose the whole catalog?
You've just never heard that band, like they're wiped from your memory and they don't exist anymore. And I appreciate that's hard because they're all great bands.
They're all bands that I could like at least like 3 records from each of them. Okay, so it was like MXPX, Midtown, Newfound Glory, and Sum 41. Yeah. I would say it's probably. I really hate. I'm sorry, Gabe. I hate to put him on the chopping block, but it's gonna. It's gonna be Midtown, and I know that. I know that. You know, Gabe is literally responsible for Newfound Glory, getting signed to Drive Through. But yeah. I would have to say. I mean, and I love their catalog too, so that's really hard. But I would say that out of all those bands that you mentioned, that's the one I listen to the least, which is still crazy because I still listen to Midtown like quite a lot. I mean, I have a couple of their records on vinyl. So,
nice! Did you hear the new cover they put out? The
cover, yeah, the Lagwagon cover is cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I think let's wrap this up with one final question. So. Cool. Who are the 3 big artists of any genre? Who are your big 3? Who are your favorite bands of all time? If you can narrow it down to 3, I appreciate.
Okay, so I will say just from like a songwriter perspective, like legacy influence, like, and especially on my life, like first music I ever heard, Tom Petty is number 1.
Nice.
Yeah, Tom Petty, number 1 songwriter for me. Green Day. Number 3 is hard because it could go in a few different directions. But, you know, I'm just going to say for like, it's so cliche, but like I have to just say for what it's done for my life and my journey in music. And, you know, I have to put Blink up there next to Green Day because it's like that has... I don't think I would have like had this vision in my head to like music with my friends and like make a, you know, like I just think, I think Blink and Green Day always have to go in a, you know, if I'm putting Tom Petty first, they always have to go in a 2 and 3 spot. But then that could also, that's a revolving door of like Paramore and Jimmy Eat World and Joan Jett. And, you know, like there's a lot of artists that could revolve in 2 and 3 for me. But I would say that like Green Day and Blink are my, you know, for what we're doing, what I've done with my life and want to continue to do, I would say that those bands have been like the ones that have made me dream big. So, yeah. Yeah,
listen, man. Thanks so much.
Great chat.
Love this. Yeah, great chat. Love hearing more about Crooked Teeth and just about your passion for music in general, man. This has been a good one.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate that.
On Sundays I'll call off Ramley's drive.